Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Seems hopefully better.
Is it better
Maybe
now? Good.
it it is. So
Okay.
I'm a little stressed now.
Yeah, me too.
It's so awkward. Like people often like accuse me I'm not very prepared and not professional when it comes to my chats. Sometimes I try to do it right, but like when rushing, and there
Yeah.
is a lot of anticipation to this one.
hmm
Um, I hear a lot of stuff about you,
Yeah.
and mostly it's good stuff. Like mostly I hear, wow, these guys at Composable are really shipping, are
Mhm.
building amazing stuff. There are also other voices, so we address that. But you based in like Portugal, is Portugal really good for crypto?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people in Lisbon. So I would say like our team is fully remote, but I do like in-person work. So we've been thinking about setting up like a formal office and like we're all working out of Portugal. I just like it because like cheap cost of living for everybody, plus also like pretty much every project has something to do with Portugal these days.
Yeah. There is like a lot of nomads in the Portugal, but like the voices I heard, because many people think Portugal is some sort of tax heaven. But
hmm
I heard a lot of voices, people coming to me and like, it's not really like this. It's just like they still didn't regulate that. And when you try to do everything like fully registered, like you still gonna pay like taxes. Is it
Yeah,
true or?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but like that's very true. Like it's not like I don't know, Dubai or something. Like it's you still pay taxes. It's a
Yeah,
Southern European country, right? So it's obviously going to be like a lot of tax.
yeah. So, were you considering like moving somewhere else, like in case some more regulations happen, or like many people I've seen this year especially like start that a lot of people moving to Dubai,
hmm
or you don't really. That's not your.
Yeah, I don't think Dubai is really my thing.
Yeah,
It's like feels very like lack of culture. Um, I'm fine with like New York. Um, it's like kind of has been my home for like the past several years, but I'm just still trying to find sort of like where I want to live, and then from there it trickles down like tax decisions, etc. Um, yeah,
it. I absolutely agree, and it's amazing you say that because I would not move to Dubai. Like,
yeah, same here.
it's absolute cultural Siberia of the world, has nothing to
Yeah.
offer. Like everyone is moving. Like, I'm like you, and then so you said this, and then you said about the New York. So I traveled to New York, and I was like, that's the city. I could live here. Like
Mm.
I like the city when I see the people chasing after their own dollar, like from
Mhm.
different class societies, the city that is a little bit dirty and has something more to it.
Yeah,
Dubai is not very appealing to me. I don't even
yeah,
like the airport.
yeah.
um so
Too
like
clean.
I'm
It's too clean.
yeah, it's not ideal. Like so yeah, like I'm now in Hong Kong. I kind of like it changed, but as the cities and like the big cities, like, and it's also tax haven, I prefer this way more. Like
Mm,
you still have the dirt, you still have the cows here. It's different vibe. Yeah, so
mm.
um we agree with that. Really
Yep.
cool. um I wonder, like, people can let us know if you can hear us very well. Not sure if this initial struggles disrupt a little bit. Let me just see on YouTube. We will cut out the first
Yep.
few minutes. I think it's yeah, everything is working. So Omar, like, at first, sorry, brain jar.
Whatever you want,
Um,
man. Doesn't matter.
yeah. Um, So I want to address, like, because as I hear this one part, like, saying BrainJar is amazing guy, the composable are amazing. There is one thing that is dragging after you, and I imagine like it will be after you all the time, right? Like
Mhm.
that's kind of happen. And it's in relation to your past. There was some accusations that you were and you had securities case. They were investigating fraud,
Mhm.
and many people I myself, when I speak, like, oh, wasn't he a fraudster, right, accused for a fraud? And what I just read, you are actually not a fraud. You
Correct.
so because you settled, and it was civil cease and desist order, like, which makes it different. So you're not white collar criminal or anything like this, and you pay the fine. Is it correct? Anything to
Yeah, I
add
mean,
there?
so there's definitely like a big distinction between, in America we have the SEC and we have the Department of Justice. If something is not elevated to the Department of Justice, that's when things are considered criminal. And so
Mhm,
like in my case, there weren't any charges. You can read the settlement case, and basically like there was a settlement. And uh yeah, the issue was obviously after the media picked up this story and combined this with my undergraduate education, they were just like, okay, like Yale fraudster doing XYZ. And
mhm,
that obviously like has prevented me from like doing, quite frankly, jack shit in web 2 land, right?
mhm,
Because the first thing that an employer looks at is Google. Um so from my perspective, I pretty much, at that point, also this happened when I was 21 years old.
mhm,
So, right, imagine like my position. Theoretically, I went to one of the best universities in the world, graduated, no job opportunities, nothing. Um, and I had to essentially move 100%. I was already involved in crypto. I had been interested in Bitcoin since 2012, 2013, was involved with like reading the Ethereum white paper, invested in random ICOs, just like everybody else did during this time. I was also like getting super interested because I was in New York. I like was getting super interested in like Uniswap, especially in 2019. Hayden would give presentations in various different like crypto Mondays in New York, and I would see him sort of present the Uniswap protocol. So I basically at that point decided to go 100% into crypto, not just because like I couldn't do anything else, but also but like mainly because this was an ecosystem that is like 100% based on meritocracy. Like it
mhm,
doesn't really care what's happened in the past. As long as
mhm.
you build stuff, like people respect you by what you're building and what you have built. And so that really drew me to the ecosystem as a whole. And yeah, I think that's kind of my journey into crypto, basically.
Yeah, like I was calculating in my head. So you're like 14-year-old, and you were already into Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Now that's pretty early. Like the one major concern I had, because with this case, like going back,
Mhm.
you were barred from working in the financing industry for 3 years, which would be up to 2022, right? So up
Yeah.
to up to last year. And there was some concerns that the potential fundraise for Composable could be during that period, which would be breaching security law. That was like my
So
major concern there. Yeah.
yeah, so there's like a very important distinction here. So the first thing is like Composable is a decentralized protocol that sold tokens in a completely 100% SAFT round,
Hmm.
entirely offshore, right? Like the majority of crypto startups do offshore offerings, and
Hmm.
we were one of those. And the process for how this then evolves is you set up like Swiss Foundation, and then that's become sort of like the hub for the protocol. We're doing the same thing. We've already set up a Swiss Foundation. Everything will be living in there, and everything is just going to move to public governance as well. So
Mhm.
we've done essentially everything by the book as recommended by lawyers, so that we're not within the jurisdiction of the United States. The second piece as well is, these are not securities, right? Like,
Mhm.
these tokens are utility tokens. And so that's also a very important distinction. So, by the way, like, the terms of the settlement did not say things of the effect that I was not able to, like, if I was an American and if I was involved in the sale of securities, this is like, it's a completely different topic than
Mhm.
what is actually stated in the settlement. The settlement covers like me working with registered broker dealers.
Mhm.
So there's like a very different sort of distinction here. But yeah, because I didn't even want to be in this gray zone area, we decided that the best possible structure like was to do this completely offshore. And pretty much every other crypto project, including Atom back in the day, plus the ICF are, conducted this. This is why also you see lots of protocols don't even have US users.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah.
Yeah, that was like most important. If you also like had the good legal advice, especially the lawyers from New York, if you got those,
Yeah.
and they told it's cool, then I guess you could trust them. So why you so popular in Cosmos? I think we can, or maybe like you mentioned Uniswap.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
you are like Ethereum. So I would say you're like early Ethereum guy. Well, before DeFi summer, and like um, how was the DeFi summer for you?
I mean, I don't think there will ever, I mean, I hope this is not the case, but like, I don't, like, first of all, there were several years where crypto was really bad, like, like really terrible.
Hmm.
Between like 2018 and early 2020, like being in crypto was basically like just chewing glass for a while. Like no one even wanted to talk to you if you were doing stuff in crypto. And there were like very few projects out there actually doing anything, right? Like I wish back in the day that I had like joined Tendermint or like one of these projects and contributed to these things like very early on, but I didn't. And the reality was like, I was basically floating around and just like when new things would pop up, I would use them. And so the new things popped up primarily in Ethereum. And that's like where I put a lot of focus and thought. So I was like like late 2019 when Uniswap V1 came out, I was already like an LP um in the like ETH USDC pool. And then when these other protocols like Curve and Compound and whatever were popping up, I was always in there like first because these
Hmm.
things were just really interesting to me, especially Compound because ETH was 100 and something dollars at this point, like 100 and probably even less than 100.
Hmm.
And if you wanted to use that Ethereum, you had to basically sell it. And that was a big issue because I didn't want to sell my ETH, but I wanted to like LP 3 pool on Curve. And so I had to figure out like, okay, how do I do this? And then Curve and then Compound popped up and you could lock your ETH, and as the price of ETH was rising, you could take out more loans in stable coins. And so that's exactly what I did. And then I rotated it into 3 pool Curve. And because people had just discovered Stable Swap for the first time, this was like massive, right? You didn't have to go to Coinbase anymore to swap DAI for USDC. This was like, so DeFi summer was a crazy time. And then, Sushi Swap popped up as well. Uni did like a very large airdrop. I'd say at that point, I sort of stopped paying attention to Ethereum DeFi probably towards the end of 2020, just because um, once the major protocols were out there, you know, nothing crazy innovative popped up that like was like, okay, this is amazing, except for the L2s, right? I started looking at
Mhm.
Arbitrum, Optimism, Starkware. These things were very interesting to me from a sort of protocol level, protocol design perspective. And this is actually when I started paying more attention to IBC and Polkadot as well. And I realized that like these protocols were way more advanced and ahead in trustless sort of connections than, you know, than the Ethereum ecosystem was used to. Like I started really realizing how bad bridges were when I was trying to move um, assets into Polygon so I could gamble on Decentraland at one point. And that experience was like so bad. But like something clicked for me at that point where I realized like if we could actually if you could actually like buy Ethereum mainnet NFTs and then gamble at a casino with Matic on another chain and like do all these things on different chains, like that's a pretty crazy experience without ever having to leave the single your location you're interacting with. And so that's kind of when I had the aha moment to start Composable.
But that's interesting what you say, that like you left the Ethereum like towards the end of 2020, um, because I feel we in Cosmos, right, especially like Osmosis,
Hmm.
it all happened like you said. There was no interesting innovation, but we exactly got like replica of this,
Yeah,
but just with the different tech. Like in the interchain we got DeFi Summer 2 years later, like, which
exactly.
shows you like how the trends, the tech is great, but the innovative trends are very late in Cosmos, right?
Correct.
Like it's,
Yeah.
and it's still now, there is much more things on Ethereum that are interesting, like to me, to user,
Yeah.
which I believe for technical people are more interesting things maybe in Cosmos.
Yeah.
So with Composable, you are building in the dot ecosystem, right? In the Polkadot ecosystem, you launch into parachains, but I feel people actually in Cosmos speak more about you than people in Polkadot, because Polkadot is this it's like its own ecosystem, right? It's the parachains secured by the dot, but Cosmos is all about IBC, and you are doing this. That's why like I think everyone is interested. But starting, like, why didn't you build decide to build sovereign chains? I believe your ex CTO was saying that actually Polkadot is more secure. Is it the same opinion you hold here? Like, what was the reason? Why did you choose the Polkadot?
Yeah. So I think like there's a lot of history here. So when I had this aha moment for Composable, and
Mhm.
I'm a user, right? Like I'm a power user. Like I love using all these new things that pop up. But my biggest complaint always was like the user experience is so bad. Like to actually be a good user, you need to spend like 6 hours a day. And I don't think most people have 6 hours a day unless they're like 100% full time in crypto. And that's just like what's preventing us from mass adoption. So, from my perspective, I said, okay, can we first of all extend, first of all, like let's forget about all these bridges that are out there, like Layer Zero, Axelar, Wormhole, like Synapse. All of these things are will be relics of the past, in my opinion, and we need to build IBC everywhere. That unlocks the ability for a good user experience at the protocol level. Then you go up one level of the stack and you say, okay, if you want, for instance, to degen on Curve, Uniswap, um, Osmosis, some random DEX on Near and some DEX on Polkadot, and you want to do all five of these things at the same time, from the same origination point, you're going to need a sort of cross-chain virtual machine. And that's exactly what XCVM is, which lives on top of IBC. This is like a little bit similar to what Osmosis is doing with their outposts, where basically you
Mhm.
can hit swap and then it routes to Osmosis. But we're doing this for the future of IBC, where it's not just Cosmos chains talking to each other. It's like all different chains talking to each other.
I
And
I
so,
mhm.
mhm.
Go on.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I wonder if XCVM is, if that infrastructure, the IBC infrastructure you are building, if this is equally secure to the IBC that we have natively in Cosmos, or it actually has more of the bridging issues that traditional bridges have.
Yeah, so this is the beautiful thing, right? Like when so how we're doing IBC is we've built a WASM client. So first of all, like every chain, if they upgrade to IBC v7, will be able to connect to our chain directly. That means we have added our IBC connection to the canonical IBC infrastructure that every chain will use. So we have gone to great lengths for like the past year and a half to build IBC in such a way that it's like modular enough where it can be replicated from chain to chain to chain. So Polkadot is the first place. So we had to replicate the IBC stack in Rust to put into a pallet on a parachain. And then on Near, we had to replicate the IBC stack um, on Near and deploy it as a contract, right? On Ethereum, there's like a whole bunch of other stuff we've had to do. But the idea here is like we use the same framework, which is light client based verification. And you asked before why be a parachain, and the reason for that is because if you go from chain A to chain B to chain C, and chain A gets 51% attacked, not only do you have um, the issue of the A assets, you now have the issue of the B assets and the C assets. And so IBC is only as strong as the weakest link. And so
Mhm.
for us, we said if we wanted to become this kind of IBC hub, right, where people are moving assets to different ecosystems going through our chain, we would have to build it as a parachain because it has so much security associated with it. We could also go the consumer chain route, but
Mhm.
my belief is that at some point, it's still going to take some. I mean, how much is secured by the relay chain, right? Like 10 billion. Like that's a level of security that's like insane. So I think
Mhm.
now that we have the option of consumer chain, like it would maybe this would have changed things 2 years ago when we first started this, but now at this point I think it's like uh we launched these things as using our parachain as the hub, but there's definitely no guarantee that we will not do a Cosmos chain in the future,
Mhm.
as that's a little bit of alpha. But and what
People
does it
will get
actually mean to
crazy
do
about this. Yeah, people will get
what does it
crazy.
actually mean to do a Cosmos chain, right? So that's I would just leave that to people to ponder. That's yeah.
Everyone loves to call it Cosmos chain, but all of that is like essentially independent chain, right? Like it's
Yeah.
kind of like nice gimmick to have, I
Yeah.
think. Because is Binance a Cosmos chain? Well, like people say no, the IBC is the, like if you connect to
Mhm.
IBC, but with that, if Composable connects to IBC, you, like, people would also call it a
A
Cosmos
Cosmos
chain.
chain. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, you know, I heard something, I don't know if it's true, like because how Polkadot is designed, that the parachains, please correct me, have slower finality than the main dot. Is it true? Like I heard some parachains had like ridiculous finality, but essentially unusable.
Yeah, so the way it works is you have a chain and you have collators on this chain. And what they do is they bundle transactions and then they submit them up to the relay chain for
Hmm.
eventual finalization. This process takes 12 seconds or so. Rob Habermeyer, one of the co-founders of Polkadot, just put out a tweet a couple weeks ago where this now is going down to 6 seconds, right? But this idea of like say, right, like sub-second finality, that's not possible in Polkadot right now. And I'm not sure if it'll ever be possible if you're operating in a place that always has to validate at the relay chain level. But it could happen on sovereign substrate chains, right? Like that's you could build something like say as a
Mm-hmm.
sovereign substrate chain, and it would be fast.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I want to ask because once you have composable chain XCVM out,
Mhm.
on mainnet, it will be powered by the token. And it seems you are. Is it fair to say that this chain is focused on connection and interoperability? Is it fair?
Yeah.
I wonder, like, maybe silly question. People say, like, oh, I focus too much on that because adoption is the main thing. Is there any way where seems the value occurring to the chain itself? I just try to understand that if
Yeah.
you charge the fees from, like, those bridges happening between IBC, is there any monetization that happens there?
Yeah. So I think people have like thought about like what is IBC monetization for a very long time, right? Um, I think that it's like a double pronged, like multiple answers to this question. First answer is MEV. I think that at some point people will start to understand that like, hey, let's not just use IBC for like moving assets from one chain to the next. Let's actually like use IBC as an indicator as to what's going to happen on the next chain. So searchers who search for this alpha can submit and bid for with builders like people like Skip and people like Mekutech. And I think that that's going to be a major source of revenue. Um,
Oh, sorry. Are you there? I thought I.
can you hear me?
Yeah, it's okay. Um,
Okay. All right. Sorry.
no,
Um, what
it's
was the
okay. Hmm. Go on.
what was the last thing that you heard?
No, it's just like last word. I think it cut.
Okay.
It's okay. Just want to let people know. Share if you can, because I know there was more people on the Twitter before waiting for the chat. Is the bridge infrastructure the main purpose of Composable, or actually you would bet that people will start using it as the app deployment as well, the Cosmwasm smart contracts, or it's Pablo designed for this?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so let me explain basically everything. So we have so IBC, we talked about IBC, we call
Mhm.
this Centauri, right? Like cross ecosystem IBC, that's what we call Centauri. It's the same IBC spec going to be merged into IBC Go. Every chain in Cosmos can connect to us if they upgrade to IBC v7. So that's it. Then we have our parachain, right? What does this parachain
Mhm.
actually do? It facilitates IBC transfers. So that's the first thing. And value accrual will occur from MEV, as I was explaining. Number two, we have a DEX there called Pablo, and
Mhm.
it's just like a substrate DEX. But the idea is that we need a strong DEX in Datsama, and we don't have one really. And if we can have a DEX that has like Dot, ETH, Near, um, Osmo, Atom, right? Like I think this could be very interesting. And I think there's also a path where this DEX and Osmosis actually can share liquidity in one pool with something like XCVM. And then that's where Cosmwasm comes into play. So if someone wants to do XCVM activities, they have to deploy something somewhere. So like whether it's on Ethereum with a Solidity smart contract or whether it's a Cosmos SDK module, doesn't really matter, right? But what we've done is we said most people in Cosmos probably will want to do these things using Cosmwasm. So we
Mm-hmm.
rebuilt Cosmwasm from the ground up, basically, and stripped out the Go pieces and will deploy it onto our parachain.
Mm-hmm.
We've already, demoed this, and this is going to be like the way that then people can build, deploy a single contract and do interesting things on many different chains. So, for instance, bridge Atom to Stride, get ST Atom, bring the ST Atom over to Pablo, LP this ST Atom with Dot, and start earning rewards. Like,
Mm-hmm.
these are the types of things that I'm interested in, like, pushing forth. And I think it really only becomes deeply interesting when we actually start having ETH involved. Like, all this stuff
Yeah,
is
like
nice. Yeah,
I
exactly.
actually don't know why Eve would ever do that. Like sometimes I speak to the people and they were like, why anyone would move to IBC? Like so, like I even have this like when I would speak with Kanto people, why would they connect? It's like it's EV. They are good on EVM. Like many EVM people are like, no, we are good here, you know. And
Mm.
and there is, I would tell you, like there is much more. You probably know there is much more fun things to do on EVM chains regarding being degen, probably.
Yeah,
Um,
but one thing, right? Imagine you could use your Cosmos assets in EVM land.
that would be fire. That would be then I could probably be even bigger degen, right? So that's
Exactly.
but I heard today, I'm not sure if that's true. Is there no issue with IBC and substrate? Like I heard the guy from Octopus or something like this, and he said it might be actually quite difficult because there was some issues with the substrate, and that Sheldon, I think he was in the. He said he spoke actually to you about some issues. Not exactly what was it, but
I mean, look, to be honest, we respect the work that Octopus did, but
Mhm.
I'm not even really that deeply familiar with what they're trying to do. I respect
Yeah.
Sheldon. I respect like what they're doing. I have yet to actually review the work they're doing.
Mhm.
But they have made some suggestions to us, but these things are not major. These things are very, very ridiculously minor, in my opinion.
Right.
Um,
So as of now, your state in the IBC is gonna happen. Like it's
well, we just released a tweet last week where we showed token transfer from Stride to Picasso. It was locally, but yes, that's like we'll do this in testnet, and then we're going
oh
to do
wow.
this in mainnet very soon.
I missed that. I actually I'm a fan of Stride. I
Me
think the
too.
derivatives will be really fun play, and people who say they don't touch derivatives will miss on a lot of stuff. I know Nomic Bridge did that. You know, they were not Cosmos SDK. They did the transfer on the testnet, so I think it will be similar. I noticed something. So Confio started Cosmos, right? They were main contributor. Not sure how is it now, but I think I saw some of the tweets. Is Composable essentially working fully on their own version of Cosmos?
I mean, we've like Confio is the reason why we're here, right? I think that what we've done is just extend the work they've done.
Mm-hmm.
But we are fully intending on maintaining feature parity with Confio's Cosmwasm VM. But we think that like longer term, it is possible that a lot of the things we've done will be actually upstreamed into Confio's Cosmwasm VM. Uh, so that is something I've discussed with the Confio guys at some point, but I think first I want to put this in production, and then
Mm-hmm.
people can make their decision at that point.
Yeah, I was quite curious because once Confio said they are stopping, they have financial issues. You know, many people jump to the ship, there need to be support. Like I got a little bit backlash because I was against that, because I was like, hey, there is already people who forked Cosmwasm and working on that, right? So that's what I was wondering, if composable Cosmwasm will be able to be used by Juno, maybe, right? So they don't
It
have to
can.
rely, because everyone said, like, if no Confio, we are done. So like that's what I'm asking, because I know Composable also works on that.
Yeah, it's I mean, I don't think yeah, so yes, you can deploy our VM on Juno, for instance. That is
Mhm.
possible.
When you will have on XCVM, when you will have uh, smart contracts available, is the deployment of the smart contract will be exactly the same as it is on the Juno
Juno.
Neutron, etc.? It
Yeah.
will be no difference in the smart contract, yeah? With all
Yeah,
the
yeah.
module will look all the same, right?
Yeah.
Is
I
there
mean, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
is there any advantage that you have, or those other Cosmos chain have, in the while developer would choose each of these chains?
Yeah, so if you come deploy a contract on Picasso through the Cosmwasm VM, you have to offer the Polkadot.js wallet, which kind of sucks, right?
Hmm.
But when we have IBC enabled and you can connect with your Kepler, and then there's a step where your assets get bridged over and stuff, and people won't even notice, right? Then that fixes the issue. But I don't think that people want to use Polkadot.js.
Hmm.
But obviously, like any Cosmwasm project, like should probably come deploy on Picasso just because it's a new location, new liquidity, and like new users as well.
Yeah. There is actually more wallets coming. I was about to get the Polkadot wallet because I wanted to buy Pika tokens, but
Hmm.
then this tweet by your ex CTO happened, so I didn't do it. Because I was like, hey, that's very low market cap. The DEX is essentially not there. It seems like good gamble. That was
Hmm.
my but yeah, I resisted. So like you said that they wallet sucks, regardless. The Kepler
Well,
is that. Mhm,
there's a good one called Talisman that came
mhm.
out I think 2 years ago. That's really good.
Is it dot? Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, the dot and Ethereum.
yeah,
Um, what are your favorite wallets? If you would like, we now in Cosmos have pretty solid battle. Obviously, there is Kepler, and to be honest, I I like Kepler, but because I got used to. But to be honest, for a random user who would not be in Cosmos, it would be nightmare. You
yeah.
know, doing IBC transfers and stuff like this. When I get the new person um to Cosmos and I tell them, oh, send me your Stargaze address, they send me Cosmos address, right? And
Mhm.
stuff like this. It's I know there's a couple new projects working on the wallet. Do you have your favorite wallet in like Cosmos, or maybe outside of the Cosmos, including Ethereum?
Yeah, I like Leap. The Leap wallet
Mhm.
is pretty nice. Um, honestly, like I know people hate on it a lot, but I do like the Near wallet. It's pretty
Mhm.
like because it's you don't store it, you store it in a smart contract. You store your assets in a smart contract, so it's like native
Mhm.
account abstraction. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, aside from that, I don't really like many
Yeah.
wallets. Yeah.
Leap is amazing. I've been using it. It's hard to switch from the wallet, but I'd love to see more of the projects integrating Leap, because like in Kepler you cannot even view the NFTs. You cannot do seamless IBC transfers. So that's a little bit annoying, and I think it needs to improve. Would you consider making some super wallet for both ecosystems?
Alpha.
It only makes like natural, like I'm looking
Yeah.
at I'm looking at the Pablo,
Mhm.
and I feel the looks pretty nice. The UX seems will be very simple, that can be adopted into wallet, right? Would be quite.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, stay tuned for more. But
Yeah.
yes, I think it's definitely something that I think Like, if you're connected to this many ecosystems, I think it only makes sense to make a wallet, right?
Yeah. Everyone is doing that, but like every time someone comes with new wallet, there's like, oh, it can be actually more, because now we will not only need just Cosmos, but we will need the wallet that will connect both, right? So it
Yeah.
will be, at some point you will want to have wallet that will have Near, Dot, and Cosmos, and um so and Ethereum, right? So you
Yeah.
said the do you think it would ever happen that Ethereum, like, or would, because you will do the IBC to Polkadot, you will do to Near, could it be possible by team like yours do it to Ethereum,
Yeah.
or or connecting to EVM is whole new level?
I mean, it's a whole new level, but it's doable. There's other people looking into this as well, like, uh, but we think we'll do it first, to be honest. And like I said, I don't know, right? If like people, maybe it becomes an alternative to Axelar, okay? Maybe, right? But
Mhm.
I actually don't think that that's the interesting situation. I think the interesting situation is from Cosmos to Ethereum, like not Ethereum to Cosmos. I think that could be like, yeah,
I have to agree, because um I'm using Ethereum and I don't see like why would I breach, like, for example, my NFTs to Cosmos. Like there is more things in it, like, so I have no really. But if I could breach some of my NFTs and introduce like Stargaze NFTs to Ethereum, like, hey,
yes,
maybe that makes a little bit more sense. I think many people think like Ethereum would
yeah,
come to Cosmos, but like I I started using way more Ethereum recently, like just because I'm like mainly into NFTs, and because of that, like the Ethereum is ahead with the certain things you're doing. You do something with the NFTs, so I will want to chat about this. But what is Cosmos missing? Like, is there something you feel that EVMs has and the Cosmos doesn't?
I think I think we still have a lot of work to do on Cosmwasm
Hmm.
uh adoption. Like, I don't know if you noticed right within 2021, like the first 6 months of 2021, I don't know how many new projects were happening every week in Ethereum, but it was insane. And
Hmm.
every single time it would happen, there would be some insanely crazy hype. Um, we haven't really seen that yet for Cosmwasm projects. We see it for Cosmos SDK chains, right? Like,
Hmm.
I'm really bullish on Duality. I'm really bullish on all these new protocols that are coming out that are Cosmos chains. But we haven't really seen this at the contract level yet, which
Hmm.
means like something like Duality or something that's like hyper innovative like this takes a lot of time to build.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
Yeah, you mentioned duality. Recently I was thinking of something. So Osmosis went the route of like sushi swap, right? Um,
yeah,
and Osmosis built very deep liquidity, and its liquidity is strictly bonded to the Osmo. What would happen if if Osmosis gets ever exploited, or essentially it kills whole ecosystem, because everyone, like, someone like Stride, like, or new chains, they started and rely 100% on Osmosis,
mhm.
which is like massive risk of not. Is like you mentioned duality, I don't know much, but is there some like alternative to it built by duality, something you like more than Osmosis maybe?
Well, Duality is building a DEX, and they have this like MEV recapture stuff. They also put out this change in Tendermint called Multiplicity. Um, that's also super cool. Like, yeah, I think Duality is going to definitely compete with Osmosis 100%. But actually, like, what if again, like, let's just go back to the delusional idea, right? Like, what if you have access to Uniswap v3? Like,
Mhm.
nobody will ever have to rely on anything and just do it in SushiSwap and Uniswap. Like that's kind of what I think is going to happen. So it's like if you have ETH IBC and you open that connection, like what actually, like I don't know what the prediction is, right? But at least now Stride can have ST Atom on Uniswap and SushiSwap and Duality and Osmosis, and then those protocols need to fight it out with emissions to figure out who gets the most swap volume, right?
Yeah. Somehow I feel what you said would be taken as the offense. Imagine having those assets in Uniswap v3, which Cosmos people would be like, oh no,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
cannot say that, that like Osmosis is gonna kill Uniswap. But like I'm looking at the Uniswap and there's like $1 billion in volume. I'm looking at Osmosis and there's 10 million in volume, and I'm like, it's gonna be difficult, like Ethereum will be big, and if you want liquidity, if you really want liquidity, you will go to Uniswap, because if you have, like, as you said, ST Atom on Uniswap, if it's there,
Crazy. Yeah,
like if people get crazy, it might be very degen like enjoyment.
yeah,
um and you can build really a lot of alternatives to liquidity, right? You can build the
yeah,
with I actually think like we in Cosmos should bring more Ethereum assets to Cosmos to build liquidity, which is like that includes stablecoin. That I think we should promote them, like wrapped Ethereum and stuff like this. Would be really cool. How is it Osmosis going to introduce? I think they introduce V3 soon. No, like they want to copy.
concentrated liquidity. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Do you think?
actually, I think it would be really interesting if um you were able to take LP tokens from providing liquidity on Uniswap, bridge them to Osmosis, and then provide liquidity between two LP tokens. So you have like ETH USDC, and then you have like whatever, like USDC USDT, and you have this like AMM of two LP tokens, which underlying is utilizing liquidity from Uniswap, right? Like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sure it's gonna happen, right? Because that's I even like thought of other things. So you mentioned ST Atom a few times, and you said people could bridge, people could go to the to Pablo,
Yeah,
and they can do ST Atom dot. But it's not ideal for value extraction. What you would like to do is doing ST Atom and ST dot.
yeah,
That will give you actually more value. I don't know why in Cosmos no one is doing like actually the Lido is still not there, but we should have pools instead of ST Atom Atom. It also makes sense to have ST Atom slash other derivative
yeah.
of Atom, or like combining them, and then you take this ST Atom slash other derivative Atom, and you take this LP and then borrow against that in, like, I don't know, Umi. that
Hmm.
that that makes much more sense, and I don't know why they don't push in harder for this, because that's I think the Cosmos could win a lot here, right?
I think something you just mentioned too, right, is like lending and borrowing protocols, right? Like imagine you can list Atom as collateral on Aave.
Mhm.
Like that just opens up
Yeah.
so much leverage in the ecosystem. And that's when I think that's why something like XCVM is important, right? Because we're talking
Mhm.
about like multi-hop things that take forever normally. And that's why I
Mhm.
think like user experience is a really big thing, because the reality is like no one's going to do these like 4, 5, 6 steps. But if it's as simple as writing a sentence, like
Mhm.
literally like Chat GPT, um, you'll be able to, like, this introduces a whole new world for the user. And that's like what I really want to do,
Yeah.
basically.
So let's go to Pablo,
Hmm.
which is your, or maybe first, Picasso is the chain that meant to serve the DeFi infrastructure. So I know Pablo is your native DEX. And when you speak of the DeFi infrastructure, that would include lending, borrowing. Maybe people will want to build the LSDs as well there. Are you also going to build yours, or rather Picasso will be there for developers to do their own DeFi, to build their own DeFi apps?
Yeah, so we're going to deploy an oracle,
Mhm.
hopefully in the next few weeks, called Apollo. And with this, people will be able to build lending protocols. Uh, and with Cosmwasm, anybody can deploy anything they want from Juno and from Osmosis. Like, we actually have a grants program out for this already. If people are interested in seeing that, um, just go on our Medium. Um, but yeah, like, I think that Picasso is going to be a place where people just build a lot with Cosmwasm.
Mhm.
And they do so because they know that it's going to be, there will very shortly thereafter be XCVM, which allows for this like inter-chain orchestration.
With that allowing for much more liquidity, right?
Exactly.
Because you will have three ecosystems liquidity that could be like main um interchain DEX. Like, I mean, Pablo could be main interchain DEX. Is it what you aiming there for? Like, do you want to be main interchain DEX?
I think I think that you know, in order to bridge, you need to pay the transaction fee in the destination chain, right? So if you move to Osmosis, you need to have Osmo. I know they're doing some stuff where it's like you can pay in any asset, but the
Hmm.
reality is, like, for now, right? Like, if you're a dot user, you need to have some Osmo.
Hmm.
And so we needed Pablo because we need to specify this. Like, the user needs to specify this implicitly when they sign the transaction, that they want like 0.0000 whatever amount of Osmo. So that's why Pablo was kind of a necessity. We built it out of necessity because we know that people have to swap inbound and outbound to have the tokens to move to the next chain. Um, if it becomes a massive liquidity hub, that would be great. But I think we built Pablo for the user so that their experience going across different chains is easy. But I think because of this, there will be a lot of swap volume, and I think most
Hmm.
likely there will be a lot of liquidity. So I think the vision for Pablo is it does become kind of the interchain DEX, not necessarily competing with Osmosis, but perhaps being this like middle sort of like Nile Delta that people use to get from place to place.
Um, you know, when I look at Pablo, there is not many assets and there is not much liquidity.
Hmm.
Actually, there is like just over 100K in liquidity. You didn't
Yeah.
fully launch, right? You offer three assets, and I think it serves mainly as the way to buy Pika tokens as of now. When can we expect something more there? Like when you try to start really building liquidity?
Yeah, so the first step is we're launching a .ksm bridge over IBC. So we're having two parachains talk to each other using IBC to bring dot. Dot, I think, will increase the TVL significantly. Thereafter, there will be emissions and staking. So, like typical emissions like DEXs have.
Hmm.
And then when we open up the connections to Cosmos, like Cosmos Hub, which we have to put out a proposal for, Osmosis, Stride, like these different ecosystems, we expect there to be most of the liquidity like going outwards, but I think Cosmos people will be just curious and interested in playing around with something new as well. So I'm not really sure how much liquidity in versus out will happen. Um, but I think there will, if there's high emissions for an Atom Dot pool, I think people will definitely LP Atom Dot.
Hmm. So is it like you are actually waiting for this IBC connection before you start deploying more liquidity? So like you don't really want to be just for the well, now Kusama and all, like, but waiting for more?
Yeah, because I just think that that's the smartest thing to do.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
And like now you have the stable coin that you have on the DEX is USDT. um I wonder, like, is there a reason USDT because it's available on the dot, or you prefer actually using USDT?
We don't have USDC in Polkadot yet.
Mhm.
Um, so I was actually hoping to get USDC from the USDC issuance chain whenever that goes live.
Mhm.
And but for now we're using USDT because there's USDT support on Dotsama.
If you would choose, you prefer USDC? Or-
I think most people would choose USDC, I think, yeah.
yeah, I was thinking with this recent regulations, right? Like, if the USDT will have the moment,
Yeah.
because as I was quite bearish on USDT, I think it might be much more difficult for them to go down than people think, because
I mean, they've been around for like the beginning of crypto pretty much, right?
yeah,
So
I yeah, like I was, do you know Justin Sun from Tron?
I've heard of him. Yeah.
Yeah, I start thinking like the USDT is essentially so Justin Sun, he supports a lot of crypto in China as well, and I'm started to think that it's all like kind of USDT come from Hong Kong, that they might be actually infinite money supporting USDT there, the same way they support Justin Sun and Tron. Like
Mm,
I'm not sure, just like they might swim in the belly of the very big whale.
mm.
um so once USDC is there, like that's gonna happen, right?
Yeah,
You building something like financial NFTs as well,
yeah,
which is something cool, and I think Cosmos could be on the forefront of that. Can you share a few things about that?
yeah. I mean, so staking positions on Picasso are not like are basically FNFTs. So
Hmm.
you get a staking position and it's in your wallet and it's an NFT that has your lock duration and how many tokens you've locked. So think of like V curve, but
Hmm.
an NFT.
Um, it actually does happen on Ethereum now, and I think we in
Yeah.
Cosmos are quite late again. It doesn't really happen with the financial NFTs, but what I like to use is SudoSwap, um,
Hmm.
which works in the same way. And I think we kind of missing on that all, because it's real yield, and it's really
Yeah.
decent, right? So I built my own pool, and I did 2.5% swap fees, and I'm milking on those rewards, and we don't have it like in Cosmos. And with financial NFTs, it's essentially gonna happen, right? Like,
Yeah.
um do you see, what about the NFTs there in your chain? Like, is there any culture that you have there with NFTs?
Yes. So we have this thing called Singular, which is like the main marketplace. Kusama has a very big NFT culture. Um,
Hmm.
so they have this thing called Singular. It's actually quite bullish. Really cool art there. Um, we have Remark, which is building like recursive NFTs, I think, like NFTs that own themselves or are owned by other things. It's an interesting
Hmm.
idea. There's also like Moon Sama, which is building a game run by this character called Donnie Big Bags. Um, so there's a lot of interesting things happening in the NFT space in Dotsama. Also, I think Engine has NFTs from some like crazy video game or something. I don't actually remember, but it was a pretty big announcement last year.
Is there anything more we can do? Because, like, okay, we have the JPEGs, right? Which
Yeah.
I actually like JPEGs. I think the JPEG NFTs are great. Um, and then we will have these financial NFTs. Is there anything else we can do with the NFTs, or?
I think bridging them, right? Like we could bridge our FNFTs to Stargaze and sell them, there, or bridging them to SudoSwap. Like I think this could be very interesting. But to me, to be honest, I really am looking for the day that like a game is like a really good game like uses assets from multiple different chains. Like going back to like the whole reason why I started Composable, right? Like imagine your like avatar character has like an NFT of a beer or something, and they're like also able to use NFTs to gamble in a casino. Like, and these things are on different chains, right? Like, I think this could be very interesting, especially if people do actually care about a metaverse, which I don't know if, like, I guess, then they're going to need like cross chain NFTs, basically.
Yeah, like I'm still not convinced, right? Like I am almost all in crypto, but
Hmm.
it's quite easier for Roblox to do all that stuff than for crypto. Like it's very difficult to build the games on chain
Yes.
actually. So it's like maybe in 5 years or something it will be very different, but for now it's like very hard for me to imagine. But like I wonder if it's able, like maybe for Roblox one day, to integrate, right, like the cross chain into. Not sure if that would work. It's kind of non-crypto, I think,
Yeah.
right? um are you now just building, or do you do any of the like when you use blockchains, you use mainly Ethereum? Do you maybe farm somewhere? What's the interesting thing there?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, like I'm farming on osmosis. I'm farming on near. Near is actually very interesting because there's no liquidity.
Hmm.
So if you're able to bridge from Rainbow, there's like quite a big APY there because no one uses it. Um, and then I think also just like, yeah, there's like some really interesting derivative stuff happening on Arbitrum recently. Like Arbitrum is crazy. Like, um, I'm spending a bunch of time like looking at Arbitrum, seeing how we can replicate some of these ideas in Cosmwasm to try to bring them over. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
I do think Cosmos needs people like you that actually looks in the other ecosystems. I felt like many Cosmos builders, they don't look into Ethereum. I even like a lot of users, when I talk to users, they're like, I never used Ethereum, right? Which
Yeah.
is quite unique, I think, to the Cosmos. You raised a lot of money,
Hmm.
right? Like you raised over 30 millions from the during the seed round,
It's a
and then
series A. Series A.
Series A, sorry. And then you also raise a lot of money in the dot auctions. That's how it's called. Yeah.
Well, we don't get any of those dots, right? Like those dots are locked up for 2 years, and users get them back. Um, so we didn't
So
actually
how?
raise. Yeah.
So you cannot use that for funding, or
No. 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 No.
that's because if you read the articles, it's like I remember the Composable raised like 32 million, right? But then the
Mhm.
article said over 100 million because you the um
Yeah. No. No. Like if we could use the dot raised, like I don't like that's just wouldn't make any sense, right? Because that's just like people were dumping like I don't remember what the price was, but when DOT was 50, like the amount of DOT in our actual crowd loan slot was like 300 something $1 million, which was crazy. Um, that just doesn't make sense.
yeah,
uh,
yeah. So there was some doubts by the city. He left CTO, right? he
mhm.
um
Yep.
he had some doubts about the sustainability of the company because he didn't know what's the financial statements.
Hmm.
I know you're not public company, right? But the question is, are you heading for bankruptcy or not?
No, no, absolutely. No, absolutely not.
Yeah. But you have like a really big team, right? It's like 80 people, I heard. Or
No, no. We're like a team of 40 to 50 or so. So Yeah.
Right. Is it majority developers?
Yeah.
Hmm. And because like a lot of companies do struggle like financially, right? Like, do you think of like lowering that, or what is the runway of money that
Yeah, I mean, we're like I've said in multiple other occasions, like we're well capitalized. We're able
Mhm.
to hire people. Like we're actually hiring, uh, looking for a ZK developer and a couple other positions. So we're in a very positive state to uh, bring on people, especially during the bear market. Like we're in a very privileged position, unlike many other projects, to actually
Mhm.
hire bullish people during this time, right? Like because a lot of projects have wound down and gone bankrupt, and so we're grabbing some of those candidates and bringing them in. So I think we're very much so on track, very much so excited to bring in smart people and just looking to ship basically.
Anyone building outposts on Composable, like Osmosis or Stargaze? Would
Yeah, so nothing announced yet, but we have definitely discussed both with both teams. So there will be more on that once we've actually deployed. And I think once IBC is actually live.
when can we expect IBC finally?
I'm hoping sometime there's going to be a lot more updates from us. Like there's going to be a lot more alpha and stuff, but I think hopefully sometime in April. Like don't quote me on that. People like to quote me and say, "Oh, you're lying." I'm not. I don't actually know yet. Like there's audits and stuff pending. We're working on that test net with Jacob. So I
Mhm.
think there's a lot of testing we have to do to spin this up properly. But I would say realistically, April would be when we have Dotsama IBC.
Right. I will say June then, because it's
That's
usually a
too
little
far from
delayed.
this year.
Just, okay. I think we covered pretty much everything. Um, like you told me the other day that you um I was saying I'm in the shitty time zone, and you said it doesn't matter because you don't sleep much.
Hmm.
So what makes you awake at night, Brainjar?
I mean, there's just so much stuff. I think people would be really surprised uh how much I keep up with everything. Like I read literally every single thing. I think that's my only value add in crypto. It's like when people speak to me, I know about pretty much the majority of topics, and some of them very, very deeply. Some of them definitely not as deep as others. But at least I've built this knowledge base of stuff where I can have conversations with people, but also at the same time, I'm a degen, like DeFi wise. And so I'm a user. So I know how to try to bridge the knowledge base with the user and
Mhm.
try to build something that makes sense for the technical people to enjoy and the users to also enjoy too.
Yeah. I do think it's very important to be the degen. Um don't want to be a little bit too silly, but there was the case of the people. Not sure if you know the Tendermint and the all in
Hmm.
beats and the people leaving, and those people were essentially scared to develop unless they would get the waiver from all in
Yeah.
beats. And I was thinking like, oh, people should be like Brainjar, who's who got like issues in the past, and he doesn't care, he just builds. Like, people should be
Yeah.
more like this. It's crypto.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's the cool thread to have. um I know you interested in biology, like you
Hmm.
I heard that. And I feel it's like very difficult to do any biology related um blockchain, but probably you heard of the guy Martin Shkreli.
Yeah. Yeah.
He is actually convicted felon. So,
Mhm.
uh, and he has this company Drag-like. He not sure if you've seen it.
No. No, actually.
There you go. You see, like you said, you know everything. Uh, but yeah, he
I didn't
deployed
say
the
that.
yeah,
I said
like
I pay attention. I pay attention. I try
you pay
to.
attention. Okay, yeah, he's like platform for democratizing access, costs, and rewards of early stage drug discovery. I believe it's just like for people to share some of their like I don't know, discovery regarding proteins or whatever. It's like essentially tiny coin.
Yeah.
But yeah. Do you plan
Interesting.
something built one day with biology related?
I don't know. I don't know. First, there's a lot of stuff to execute on, and maybe, maybe. I mean, it's definitely like one of. I think it's helpful. Like actually, Ethan Buckman has a background in bio. I
Mhm.
don't know. I mean, I read that somewhere, and I think it is like a helpful way to look at the world because one thing affects another thing, affects another thing. I studied physics as well, so like these two things together made me sort of think about like overall ecosystem dynamics, I guess.
Mhm.
Um, so like I don't necessarily use it on my day to day, but it's definitely something I would be open to like way, way in the future, but definitely right now is like not a focus.
What's your favorite book?
My favorite book,
Mhm.
probably Snow Crash. We were making fun of the metaverse before. Um, but yeah,
Oh, it's a novel.
it's a novel.
I'm so glad. I'm gonna order. That's massive surprise because you're the first person that said the novel. Like for
And
example,
most people. Mhm, mhm,
I don't read theory books or like or nothing like and everyone like gives me some like Peter Thiel book. I
mhm,
was like, get the fuck out of here. Give me something. Give me something
mhm.
new, right? It's cool. And your favorite movie?
The Godfather.
Ah, that's a
Actually,
good one.
I
Safe
think
one, yeah.
everybody says I don't I think everyone says that. I don't know. I'd have to think about that one, but I do like that.
Yeah. Okay. Branger, thank you. Um, sorry for the initial issues. Um, I do hope people enjoyed that. I hope you did enjoy it a little bit. I hope we covered everything. Is there anything we missed?
No, I think that's
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. I'd love to cover more of Composable. I'm excited to see. I'm small, but like I'm always enjoy doing this stuff. So thanks a lot and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Yep. Take care.
Take care. Bye bye.